Hey there, and welcome back to Temporary Locals.
I'm Jared.
And I'm Megan. This week, our guest is taking us to Bermuda and the U.S. Virgin Islands. But before we get into that, if you're new here, welcome. Jared and I are an adventure loving couple, swapping stories from our own travels and also sitting down with guests who take us and you to places that we haven't explored yet. So, whether you're planning a future trip or you're just here for the storytelling, you're in the right place. And we would love it if you'd subscribe and join us. We drop new episodes every week almost. So, to intro our guest today, we are going to be speaking with Lauren Arnold. Lauren is my friend of nearly 20 years. She is a mom, a wife, and an HVAC operations manager. She also serves on the board of directors for King's Daughters Ministry, which is a nonprofit that provides shelter and rehabilitation for women and their children. In her free time, she loves true crime, American and royal history, and puzzles. And today she's going to join us to share some stories from two separate vacations to Bermuda and the Virgin Islands. So, welcome, Lauren.
Hey, how are you? Thanks
Hello.
for thanks for coming on today.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no
thanks for
problem.
having me. I'm
Yeah.
excited.
We're super stoked and happy that you're going to be our guinea pig for our first guest video ever.
Love to be a
Right.
guinea pig.
Yeah, Lauren is here to talk to us about her trips to separately to Bermuda and the Virgin Islands. So I think chronologically it was Bermuda first in 2016 and then Virgin
Yes.
Islands later. Is that right?
Yes. Virgin Islands was 2023, I believe.
Why was it that you guys chose Bermuda?
So actually we really didn't know much about the island itself. The only reason that we chose Bermuda was because it was one of the only and continues to be one of the only places that a cruise line will allow you to stay on that island for 3 days. So with other cruise lines and other areas, you go, you stay on one island for 8 hours and then you leave and you go somewhere else. In Bermuda, you stay on that island for 3 days straight, and that is why we decided to go there.
When you're on the island, do you have to go back to the ship every day? Because obviously you're on a cruise, or do you actually have accommodations on the island?
So we didn't have accommodations on the island, but if I remember correctly, I believe that was an option. You could stay on the island for quite some time. I don't remember there being like some type of curfew or anything. But I think most people returned back to the ship at the end of their day, whatever time that was.
Sure, that would make sense. I mean, if you're doing a cruise and you're already paying for, the room there, just
Right.
to
Yeah.
stay there, sure.
Yeah, and I mean, it's not like there's nothing to do on a cruise ship. As soon as you leave the island and get back on the cruise ship, there's plenty to do. So we didn't really that didn't really bother us, especially since there was not really like a curfew. So we didn't have to limit our time or our day or really anything. We kind of came and went as we pleased.
Yeah. So you were on the island for 3 days. Do you remember like what the first day was like, getting off the ship and kind of going through Bermuda?
Yes. Yeah, so the first day was really interesting. Like that's I think another reason why I'm so appreciative that we were on the island for 3 days because with a place that big and so much to see, we did not feel pressured for time, so we were able to really go at our own pace, and it was really nice. So we went through customs, which is just like a really short experience when you're getting off the cruise. And then you walk out and there is a line of taxis waiting to take all of the people getting off the ship around the island. So the first thing that we did was just kinda take it in because the visual is just so different than what I'm used to. I haven't done a lot of traveling, so it was breathtaking immediately. So we really just kinda stood and really took it in, and then I dropped my phone in the water, so that was really nice. So I didn't have a phone for the remainder of the trip. So that was like within the first 15 minutes of getting off the ship. But we really just, looked around, kind of walked around. If I remember correctly, we get off the ship and you kind of enter like this little, almost like a marketplace kind of deal. And there was a lot to do immediately, but after we, looked around and really took it in, we got in a taxi and immediately just started kind of driving around and just getting an idea of what we could do. That's one of the downsides of picking the way that we did, because we only picked Bermuda because we were staying there for 3 days. We really did not plan what we were going to do. So we just got in a taxi and was like, hey, what's there to do? Take us somewhere. So it was kind of, it's like free play. We really just rode around, and thankfully we had a really, really great taxi driver who really took pride in where he lived and telling us all about it, and showing us some of the really cool sights.
That's awesome.
Mm.
So first of all, we're suckers for markets. We say that all the time.
That's one of
Hmm.
our that's one of our
Oh,
catchphrases.
I remember that being one of the funniest things that I heard on the first podcast that Jared said.
And two, we talk all the time about how having an itinerary is great and knowing the things that you want to do is awesome, but it's also great to just kind of wing it like you guys talked about, because then you find stuff that you might have not have known about if you were planning a trip from abroad and you're just kind of looking at highlights online or in travel books or whatever. So I think that's a great way to experience a new place, is just kind of winging it. Did you spend time with that taxi driver all day? Did he kind of hang out with you guys all day and take you everywhere, or how did that go?
Y- Yeah, he did. I just, every time I think about our trip to Bermuda, it's this particular taxi driver, because he was just phenomenal. And I guess I just compare him to what you would expect in a large city in the US. It just wildly different. But you could just tell that he took a lot of pride in where he lived and showing it to tourists. He took no, I don't even know how to describe it. He was just very, very kind and very nice, and I really, really liked him. So yeah, he took us to a lot of places. That first day, we didn't really go anywhere and stay. We did a lot of riding around, and then he would take us to a nice little spot. We'd hang out there for like 10 minutes, and he would wait on us, and then we would, go back into the taxi. So that first day, we spent a lot of time with this gentleman, and he actually ended up showing us the currency, which we didn't really have to use. But he showed us the currency, and it's absolutely beautiful. And he actually gave us some, which I thought was really, really cool. Um, but he was great. It was a really, really great experience to have him on our first day and him show us a lot of the things that were there to see, and then even give us ideas for the second and third day.
Yeah, that's kind of a ongoing thing too. Is like currency in other countries. They seem to be like so far ahead of us.
Hmm.
So many places we've been, their currency is just so cool. They have like really colorful animals or birds or
Hmm.
whatever, or monuments, and ours just has like old dead white guys. Um,
It's
but do you remember how
boring.
much?
It's so
Do
boring.
you do you remember how much you spent like on his services driving you around like for the day? Like, do you remember how
Oh,
much that
that's a
was?
great question. Um, I really
Like
don't
equivalent?
remember. Um, I don't remember that, but I do remember it being being kind of surprised at how low the cost was. It
Yeah.
I don't remember exactly, but I do remember it being lower cost. And honestly, a lot of the things there were. I wasn't, whereas like I kind of looking to the future, but the Virgin Islands was incredibly high priced. Bermuda
Mhm.
was way, way below that. So, which is crazy because it's beautiful, and they have a thriving economy, or at least they did when I was there. And so I would not have been surprised if it, was more expensive, but everything was very affordable there.
Yeah. And I mean, was the price of him driving you around and everything, was that something that like you guys negotiated beforehand? Because that's kind of the nice thing about rideshare services like Uber or Lyft or Grab or some of these, even in other countries, is like taxi drivers a lot of times can try to scam you, and if you don't set a price beforehand, they can say whatever they want. You owe them whatever.
Yeah.
Whereas, if you're going through a company like Uber or something, it's like that price is already set, so beforehand, before you even get in the vehicle, what you're paying. So, do you remember, like, did you make sure he knew what you were paying him beforehand?
No. So I have to admit that Aaron and I were, very young travelers. This was the first time that we had done anything at that level of travel. We had pretty much both of us stayed within the surrounding three states from South Carolina. So um, we literally just jumped in that taxi and didn't even ask questions. So yeah, it was not something that was negotiated ahead of time. It was just something um, that we just got into and found out afterwards. I will say that, I mean, I don't know if you've ever been to an airport in New York City, but I remember when we were in New York, which is actually where we were before we went to Bermuda. We left from New York. There is a line of yellow taxis as soon as you get out of the airport in New York. It was
Mhm.
literally exactly like that. So it almost makes me think if there's maybe some type of agreement with the cruise ship or the cruise line, maybe not on a price or anything like that, but I guess I don't know. I just felt very safe in that situation. Yeah, I felt very safe. I didn't feel, and that could either be because of, the area and just how I felt on the cruise ship, or just being naive because I was such a young traveler. But I didn't have any reason in the moment of getting in the taxi to try to negotiate any type of price or come to any type of understanding. We just got in and went. Thankfully, it turned out okay.
Yeah, they probably do have some sort of arrangement. I know, even a lot of airports won't. They have arrangements with local taxi companies to the point to where they don't even allow Uber to operate
Hmm.
out of the airport. So you can't even get an Uber from the airport. You have to go with a taxi. Um, so yeah, I mean, you probably have less of a chance of being scammed in that situation. But I just know that,
Hmm.
like, in a foreign country, anytime you get in a taxi, if you're using a taxi company, you always set the price beforehand, and that they know that, like, this is what I'm paying when the service is over, because they can and sometimes do try to, like, overcharge you and try to double
Hmm.
the price. So.
Yeah, we did the same thing as you when we went to Peru. We just got in the taxi and we're like, "Hey, we're going to Plaza de Armas," and they were like, "Okay," and then we'd get there and we'd be like, "¿Cuántas soles?" And at the
Well,
end, but
we no, we would in the beginning too. I remember opening the door, and that's a lot of times the first thing I'd say to them was, "Cuántas soles," and they'd
yeah,
say, whatever it is, and it's like, okay. But yeah, I didn't really get. I don't think Peru is as big, as well known for being like a scam place. I mean, not saying that scams don't happen there, but in places
Hmm.
like Egypt or even in like Thailand and Asia and stuff, it's like they'll try to get you. So you have to be really,
yeah,
wary of that.
Yeah, I think if I were to go back now, I think I would be a lot more weary, and cautious of things like that. I mean, other things too, but specifically that. Like I said, I mean, I had the whole reason that we decided on the cruise and all that was because I was turning 21. I just turned 21. So, and like I said, I had never traveled. So I just went for everything. It's like, you want to go here? Sure, let's go. But now, if I were to go, having just turned 30, I would definitely have a lot more questions.
Hmm.
yeah, for sure. So your first day, you kind of just did some sightseeing with your taxi driver. Did you visit any cool like, places?
My it continues to be my favorite place was one of the beaches that we went to. There are so many different beaches. I don't recall the name. It's just again my age and not really appreciating what I was actually doing at the time, but I don't recall the name of the beach, but I remember it being famous for having the pink sand. And I think Bermuda is pretty commonly known for having pink sand, but it is, I mean, it was absolutely wonderful. I mean, it was, if you were to like really just hold it in your hand, you can't really tell that it's pink, but that was the thing that we did, and probably the time we spent like the longest while the taxi driver waited on us. But we went to that beach, and it, it doesn't even look like a beach I could compare it to that we've been to in the States. I mean, it was just gorgeous. So there's like when you first walk down, there's this big open public area, and it looks like a standard beach, like you would walk down Myrtle Beach or a beach in Florida or something like that. But if you walk a little further, there are these giant rocks. To call them rocks feels like an understatement, but they're huge. And they kind of created like walls, and it made like its own little private beach. I really liked that, especially like, having, well, not quite yet, but about to be married, like just having like that little privacy was really, really nice. And it was just like rock after rock. So you're talking like these big spaces, these two big rocks. You've got your private little space, and then you would have the next area, and it just continued down further and further. And it was gorgeous. So that was the biggest thing that we did on the first day that I would love to do that again. And I actually tried to, take some of the pink sand home. Didn't really work out, but I mean, I made the attempt, so I was proud of that.
What happened?
So I mean, I can't remember if it was like the first or second podcast. I remember Jared telling a story about trying to get something through customs, and it either worked out or it didn't work out. But well, this one it did not work out. So I basically took some of the sand, I put it in like a little piece of paper, and I just wrapped it up, and it looked just like a little folded up piece of paper. Well, when we are walking back to the cruise ship and we're walking through customs right before you get on the ship, you have to take everything out of your pockets. They're searching everything, and they found the piece of paper on my person and took it from me. So no sand
Wow.
for me.
Did they say specifically like, no, you can't take this sand?
Yep. Yep.
Did they
No, you cannot take this sand. I have they didn't If they did, I don't remember it. So it obviously wasn't like something crazy or memorable, but I just remember them very specifically saying that I could not take that back with me on the ship. I was so bummed. I was so excited to show my pink sand to people. Thankfully, I had been on the beach, so like they couldn't make me like empty my shoes. So I mean, I did, I did carry some over that line in my shoes,
Oh,
but
yeah,
it
that's a
never made
good
it home.
idea. For
It
anyone
never
that
made it
wants to
home.
smuggle sand off of Bermuda, just put a bunch in your shoes.
Yeah, right? Yeah.
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 I've heard of that before though. I've heard of people getting sand confiscated, and it's kind of funny
Mhm.
because in certain places they'll actually sell like bottles of the sand, the local sand
Mhm.
that you can buy at like gift shops and stuff, but you're technically not allowed to take it home. So you can actually, even though you can buy it there, they'll confiscate it at
Yeah.
customs anyway. So, but going back to the pink sand, I kind of wonder, like, I wonder what makes it pink like that. It's got to be something geological, I would assume, minerals of some kind. I know, like a black sand beach, it's from usually volcanic activity. Um,
Mhm.
your dad would probably know the answer
Yeah,
to
he
that,
he
but
would.
um, yeah, it's interesting that it's pink. You know,
It's also like what really just kind of shocked me by it is, if like I said, to hold it in your hand, you really can't tell. I don't know if that's like a volume thing because, obviously you're not holding a large amount of sand in your hand, but it's not like you hold it in your hand and you see like pink specks or anything. But if you're to look across the beach, and it's not like crazy, like Millie level pink. It's
Mhm.
like this very like calm, almost like a coral looking color.
Yeah, it's
Um,
probably a pale, like so pale that when you hold it,
yeah,
individual grains, you can't really tell. Yeah.
Right.
yeah. I still try though, man. And I'm really bummed about that to this day.
It's probably
So,
kind of like, and this is a weird example, but like a polar bear looks white. Their hair's white, right? But their hair is actually not white. It's clear. Did you
Mm,
know that?
what?
yeah.
Yeah, a polar bear's hair is actually like fluorescent, like clear.
Like fiber optic looking,
Yeah,
like a strand of,
yeah, it's clear. But
but all
together,
together it looks white.
when it's all together, and you see a polar bear from afar, it's white. They have white hair. So
Wow, I had no idea.
yeah,
Hmm,
You learn something new every day.
I'm
that's
full of
right.
knowledge. It's all up there.
All right. So I think I asked you this when you were going, either before you went or after you went, but we can't talk about Bermuda without talking about the Bermuda Triangle. Did you have any reservations or any weird experiences while you were there?
I did not.
Were you
It
like, did you have any anxiety going into it? Like, oh man, what if we fly over the Bermuda Triangle or something?
um, no, I really didn't, and that could be because I had crippling anxiety about being on the ship, but not about where I was going. So I've always been scared of large bodies of water. Watched the Titanic way, way, way too many times in my life. Drowning is my biggest fear. So I was very distracted by the fact that we were on the cruise ship. I never even thought about the fact that I never even thought about the triangle. The word triangle never even entered my mind, and we didn't have any weird experiences. So, um, like I said at the beginning, I think that if we were to go back, there would probably be a lot more exploring that we would do. So that could play a part in it. But no, for the most part, it was kosher. It's good, great. I'd 10 out of 10 go again. No fear.
Did any of the locals mention anything about that? I mean, how do they view it? Because the rest of the world, we kind of know of Bermuda and that area, the Bermuda Triangle, as being famous for ships going missing and planes going missing and people going missing. Like, do the
Right.
locals acknowledge that, or do they just think it's silly?
I to the locals that I spoke to, it was never brought up. So I would assume that, you know, they probably did have some type of opinion on it. If I were to guess, um, going back to my taxi driver, he told us very specifically that Bermuda's economy thrives on tourism. And
Right.
that is why they are so polite. And because you're not going to go there and feel unwelcome because, you're a hindrance to them or you're in their way or you have too many questions or no, they love to see people get off that cruise ship. So if I had to guess, I would say that some people might even just feed into it. I could see a local just, having the conversation and not being like, "Oh, yeah, that's nothing," you just hear all the stories. I mean, I could see somebody, "Yeah, I did have this weird thing happen to me last week," just to kind of, be polite and not, turn somebody off.
Right.
Yeah.
Or it could scare people and make them not want to go. It
That's
could be
true.
the opposite too.
Well, if you're already
Yeah.
there, you know.
Right. Well, that's true
I
too.
gotta go. You're not leaving.
So I think
Yeah.
you mentioned kind of before we talked that you guys went to like a fort and a lighthouse. Do you remember those experiences?
Yeah, the lighthouse was pretty short. If I remember correctly, that was the first day, and that was just one of those stops that we did. So we just climbed it and looked out. The most insane view. I mean, just beautiful. But we were there for a short time. The fort, however, was very, very interesting. Um, we walked around. I think one of the things that stand out the most is the moat around it. It felt like I had just like entered a completely different environment. It was very rainforesty. The weather went from like gorgeous and clear, like no humidity, no, like it was just perfect, to going way far down, being completely immersed in trees and plant life and just green. I felt like my skin looked green. There's so much greenery. Um, and the humidity change is very, very wet there. Um, but yeah, that we stayed there, I think half of the second day. So we didn't have a tour guide or anything. I don't think we did any like official tour guides at any of the places that we went, but um yeah, it was wonderful to kind of do that on our own. That's kind of Aaron and I's thing anyways. Um, but yeah, it was great.
Yeah, we like to go explore on our own places too. I think I saw a picture, and I'm not sure if this is a picture of the fort, but it was did it have like green cannons on it, or
Yes.
was that something else?
Yep. No, that was from the fort. Yeah.
Really cool.
Yeah.
Did they have like exhibits or anything like that? Like I remember, just to compare, we've in St. Augustine, there's the Castillo de San Marcos, and it's like we felt like we were stepping back in time because you go there and there's people dressed up in like, you know,
Colonial attire,
yeah, colonial.
Hmm.
Spanish. Mm.
Yeah, and they do like demonstrations and stuff. Did you experience anything like that there?
No. And that's realizing that there were no exhibits or anything really like formal there is what made me think about the tour guide thing. Um, but no, there really wasn't. It was just kind of like a free for all to just walk around. I don't even really remember there being, how if you're like walking through a park or you're walking in a museum or something, they have like small signage in front of whatever it is that kind of explains what you're looking at. I don't even recall there being anything like that. So really walking through there, you just kind of use your imagination for whatever it is that you're walking through. So like I remember walking down a very steep set of stairs and walking through it, straight concrete building, obviously underground. But what I would assume would have been like barracks. But you can tell like it's they probably haven't changed much at all from it when it was originally being used. Um, because there's nothing. I didn't see a single person that could explain anything to me or tell me what any of it was. So I really just used my imagination as far as what I was looking at. Um, so we saw the what I said or what I thought appeared to be the barracks. We saw a lot of old cannons, which were really really cool, um, at each corner of the fort. Um, and then a lot of like open land around where that building was. A lot of it was underground, and then walking through that rainforest. But now I almost feel kind of ashamed that I don't know much about it. I couldn't even tell you the name of the fort because there was no information about really what we were looking at.
Did you have to pay to get there? Was there a fee
Mm-mm.
to enter? Or
No,
it's just kind of like public
no, no.
property
Yep,
and just
it's
walk around?
open to the public. Yeah,
Yeah, that's interesting.
Hmm.
yeah.
Yeah, it almost feels like I don't know, like a more authentic way to experience it. Like it's cool when
Mm-hmm.
you go to a place and they've invested money into like signage and things like that to help like explain the history and stuff, but it's almost kind of makes you feel like you're an explorer and you're like discovering it.
Yeah, yeah. I liked it like for me when I'm walking through like going to museums or walking through places like that, I have this thing that my brain does and I immediately put myself back into, a completely different century. And so that allowed me to do that a lot easier. I wasn't like, oh yeah, well I feel like it would look like this, but this sign tells me that, the colors would have been red and blue or, whatever it is. So I mean it really just kind of let my mind explore. I liked it, but I also do like knowing what I'm looking at. The fact that I can't tell you what fort we were on or give you much like very specific information is frustrating. But at the same time, I appreciated the fact that we were able to explore on our own and just kind of come up with our own ideas of what we were looking at.
Yeah. Yeah,
Hmm.
we'll have to look it up. Like fort in Bermuda, give it a goog because I mean
Yeah,
it could just be that they don't know anything about it and that's why there's nothing there. So who knows?
yeah. And who knows what's changed? I mean, that was 10 years ago now.
Yeah.
Um, so it's possible that, that they've added or, things have changed. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So I think there's one last story here on Bermuda. Did you have an experience where you guys were trying to buy some sort of unit of marijuana?
One unit.
we were not trying. But it does go back to our lovely taxi driver. No, I think this was a different one. This was a different taxi driver. But we were definitely not seeking it out. I think, like I said, that a lot of the locals are just proud and they talk and, you know, they inform you of their experiences and all the things. And this particular gentleman offered us some marijuana, and we were like, yeah, absolutely. Um, you know, we're on this foreign island, you know, whatever. And then we got, and the guy was like, well, you know, I have to go pick it up, and then I got to go do this, and and then I'll come back. And we got out of the taxi, and he was like, you guys can just like wait here. We were at a stop. We were actually stopping where we were, so could go look around, and then he was going to come back. And when he left, we just kind of looked at each other, and we were like, what are we doing? It's a terrible idea. um, we don't even know this person. Like,
Did you already
they
give him money?
could. No, 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 no.
Oh, okay. That's good.
I was pretty naive, but it wasn't that bad. And thankfully I didn't, because we just got so weirded out by all of it. We just, where we were, I think it was a beach that we ended up going to, and we just stayed on that beach for an extended amount of time so that we knew that taxi driver had come and gone again. And yeah, I mean, we were just like, "Ooh," and left. That was it. Because like in the moment, it was just like, yeah, we're on this island. We're going to have fun. You know, I just turned 21. We're about to get married. Yeah. No, we're not doing that. So it's kind of how that went.
Yeah, I know what that's like. I don't know if it's because of the way I look or what. Maybe it's like tattoos or what, but I get offered drugs
It's
most
the beard,
places
Jared. It's the beard.
and the beard, yeah. But which, 10 years ago, sure, I would have. But now I'm just like, no, man. Like, why do you assume I do
Yeah.
drugs? You
Yeah.
know what I
That's offensive.
mean? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm really glad we made that choice.
Yeah, sounds like a good one.
Yeah.
But still a fun
But no, I
story.
mean, it's still a fun story. Like I remember just being so excited and then just immediately feeling a lot of regret. It's just like your face just changing, like, oh shit.
And then you
What
feel
did we do?
obligated because you already told the guy, like,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and they're all so nice. So like the last thing that I wanted to do was like inconvenience this man, but I it was like in that moment after I got out, I realized like how potentially dangerous that entire situation could have been. And I was like, I would rather be seen as an inconvenience than put myself in a dangerous situation. Like that could have turned in so many different directions. So I was like, yeah, I'm out of here.
Yeah.
Yeah, he could have been an
I
undercover
am
cop.
leaving the triangle.
Yeah. Yeah, he could have been undercover or an informant,
Right.
and then you get arrested, and then the cops are like, and then you have to pay the police, which is how it always seems to go.
Yeah.
Yeah, that could have gone south, but it didn't. And it sounds like you had a
It
really good
didn't.
time and that you'd
Yeah.
enjoy going back.
Yeah, no. If I were to go on a cruise again, I would take the same cruise right back to Bermuda with the same cruise line. It was phenomenal. There are so many other like aspects to that trip, but we were able to pack so much into it. We left from New York City, as I said, but we got to fly in like 2 days in advance. So we got to see the city, and then when we came back, we stayed 3 additional days in the city and got to explore even more. So it was we were really homesick by the time we got home, but it was a wonderful trip that I would absolutely do again.
Yeah, sounds like a good itinerary.
Yeah,
All
it
right,
was.
let's switch gears and head to the Virgin Islands. So this was a more recent trip within the last few
Mhm.
years or so.
Mhm.
Um, I think you went in December, if I have
Yeah.
it correctly.
Mhm.
And who did you go with?
So when I left my immediate home, I was with my two nephews. They so kind of making a long story short, my brother and his wife, they moved temporarily to the Virgin Islands for the pursuit of job opportunities. and their boys went with them. So for that Christmas, they came back home and spent some time with family here. And they had to get back home. Brent and Nicole went back home earlier, and the boys stayed here. So they stayed with their grandmother for the first part of the week, and then they stayed with me. And they asked me if I would fly them back home so they wouldn't fly by themselves because of their age. And I was like, you know what? I think I'll take one for the team on that. Um, so they stayed with me the night before, and then we went. And then of course we joined Brent and Nicole once we got there. So for the whole trip it was me, Brent, Nicole, Cash, and Connor.
Awesome. Do you remember how long you stayed there?
So I was really only supposed to stay there for 2 or 3 days, but I ended up missing my flight back home. That airport was tiny, and it was really hard to get information. It was very busy, and I had been waiting, thinking that my flight was coming, waiting, 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 and then all of these people started talking about flight such and such, what had been canceled or something along those lines. And so I went and tried to confirm it with anyone that I could find that appeared to work at the airport. And I talked to one person. They told me the flight was canceled. It didn't end up being canceled, but I did get an additional 2 days out of it. So I ended up staying for about a week.
That worked out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sometimes missing your
That
flight
was
is,
nice.
it's good. Yeah.
Yeah, it was nice. It was hard because I wish that I could have done that trip with Aaron. That would have been so much fun. It was really hard to enjoy a vacation that much with him being at home, um but yeah, I was not mad at all about staying an additional 2 days.
Yeah. Were you staying with your brother?
Hmm. Yeah, so they had an apartment, which I guess technically there it would have been considered an apartment, but It was it wasn't like an apartment that you would see here. It was, almost like a townhome, but in the form of an apartment. So there were, like, a lot of people. It was like one big building cut into, um, different, um, rooms. I don't know, words are hard. But it felt more like a townhome because of the space, but I guess technically it was an apartment. But it overlooked the water. It was very, very nice.
Wow.
Yeah, that's awesome. Did you do any like exploring while you were
Oh,
there?
yes. Yeah, so, the first the first part of the trip, it was planned that I was gonna be there and the boys were getting home. So, me, Brent, and Nicole and the boys did a lot, and we had a lot planned for that time, but then I ended up staying longer, so the final 2 days, they were working, and the boys had a babysitter, so I didn't really I couldn't drive. I didn't have a vehicle or anything, so I ended up staying around their apartment for the last 2 days. But the first 2 days were pretty packed. We did a lot of eating. Brent and Nicole are foodies. Brent, my brother, is a chef, and his wife Nicole is also incredibly talented in the kitchen. So we ate a lot of wonderful food. We spent time at the resort that they both worked at, which was really nice. Um, we did, walk through the rainforest and went to several different beaches. We did a lot in the first few days.
And like, what kind of cuisine are we talking here? I mean, is there like a local Virgin Island type culinary? Like,
I
what kind of
don't
food do they eat there?
I don't recall it being wildly different. I don't but I have to admit that I am a very picky or basic eater. I like really, really good food. But like really, really good food to me can be chicken nuggets. So I'm not, and Brent knows that about me. But I don't think that there was anything like overly special. At the resort, it was you know, pretty basic, food. We had Mexican, um, some really fancy food. But yeah, I don't. That's a great question though. I'm gonna have to ask Brent about that if there was more local cuisine that we didn't eat that he didn't take me to because he knew I wouldn't
Hmm.
eat.
So you said that you guys ate a lot of food. Was it food that like Brent prepared for you, or was it restaurants or a mixture of both?
I wish that I could say that it was food that Brent prepared. But no. I mean, yes, technically at the resort, he could have prepared it, but um, no, we it was all restaurant eating. I think Brent is, he doesn't do the chef thing anymore. But I think he cooked so long for a living that like when he got home, he just didn't want to cook. Which
Yeah.
sucks because he's so good. Nicole did make a home cooked meal one night and it was amazing. But it, nothing different than what we would have, eaten here.
Hmm.
Yeah. While you were there, were you offered a job?
Yes, I was. It's kind of sad because it was the first time in my life that I would have actually considered leaving the area that I've always lived in. And I realized how, like, I was like, wow, I can't believe that I actually have the feeling that I would want to do something like this. And just walked in the door, guys. Sorry. So yeah, it was the first time that I, would have considered something like that, but realized how nearly impossible it would have been. But I was offered a job to help this organization um, basically rescue dogs. The way that they care for dogs on the Virgin Islands was awful. It's really really awful. So it is very very expensive for them to get dogs on a flight back to the states, which is essentially what they want. That's what they consider to be a rescue, um, because of how poorly they're treated there. But it was basically someone who would help to organize and um, obviously grow funds for something like that. There wasn't a huge demand for it there, but um, I ended up meeting this gentleman and just talking to him, and I told him a little bit about myself and a little bit of my background and how much I love animals. And yeah, he straight up offered me that job right in the middle of some random store that we were in. It was really interesting, very humbling too. That he within 10 minutes of talking to me offered me something like that, but it would have been
Yeah.
fun in another life.
Yeah, I threw my hands up because I was like, that'd be perfect for you because we talk all the time
Hmm.
about you. Well, not so much anymore, but we have talked about you opening a like
Right.
pet rescue
Yeah.
because you have many dogs and cats. We have not
Correct.
talked about this on the podcast. I didn't even think about that. We could have put that in your intro.
Yeah.
Animal lover.
We don't.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, yeah, I think it would have been really cool, especially like the the situation with the animals. It wasn't really something that you could hide yourself from. It was very apparent and it was very public. And it was very, very difficult. Like outside of the fact that it was an absolutely wonderful vacation, that really brought it down a lot of the times. So I can leave that situation being happy or find some hope in that there are people on those islands like trying to find a way to make that situation better. So I was excited about that.
Yeah, when you talk about the treatment of them there, is it just like are there a lot of stray animals out and the people there just don't really care for them? Like just for example, like when we were in Peru, we thought it was crazy because there was a lot of dogs on the streets, but like they seemed to be taken care of by the community. Like they didn't seem to go hungry and some of them even had cute little outfits on.
Mhm.
And things like that. So was that the experience there? Is that the locals just don't really care for the dog population?
um so I found it very interesting that it was that it was the dogs that were mistreated and not the cats. Not because one versus the other deserves it more, but you most often see cats being like avoided or not cared for. In this situation, it was the complete opposite. Cats were like, I mean, you would see cats everywhere, but just like you said, they were very well taken care of. A lot of the cats, like in places that you'd walk into a shop or, somewhere local, and they would have cats that just hung out, that they just got adopted by those shops and they stay there and they get fed and they're loved. The dogs, however, are, there's a lot of fighting. There's absolutely no care. There are a lot of strays, and most of the time they are starving. Um, there are a lot, and I don't know if you would want to keep this here, but there's a lot of dead dogs on the side of the road, and not in just like, oh, you see it sometimes, like driving down the road, somebody got hit. I no, we're talking about violent deaths of these dogs, and they're just laying out on the side of the road. So unfortunately, Brent and Nicole had to come up with a word, that they would say to Brent would typically say it to warn Nicole so that she didn't have to look at it, but it would also so that they could distract the boys so the boys didn't have to see it. But I knew anytime they yelled watermelon that it was something that you had to be careful, you had to turn your head. So it was so common there that they had to come up with, something that triggered a warning the to the other people in the car.
Yeah.
It was very
Wow.
sad. Very, very sad. And it was, like I said, it was very hard because it's such you know, a beautiful place. I would say that the locals are not as nice as the people in Bermuda, but nice people. And for someone like me and anyone, it really made me think differently of where we were.
Yeah.
Mm.
What was the overall vibe like? Did you feel safe while you were there?
I would have felt safe had Brent and Nicole not lived there for as long as they had, and they'd known. So I feel like it's one of those places, like you hear, like if you're in Atlanta or you're in like a big city, all it takes is a turn down the wrong road and you're in a completely different place. There was a lot of that. And the there are a lot more men on the Virgin Islands than there are women. And I'm just going to let that speak for itself. There's a lot of violence towards women on the Virgin Islands. If I remember correctly, Nicole like someone actually, a man tried to or attempted to remove Nicole from her vehicle several times at a stoplight. Um, but if I did not know those stories, there's nothing about the area that would have made me feel that way. I think I just knew, so it kind of put a chip on my shoulder. But everyone was very, very nice. It was very islandy, even way more so than Bermuda. It was very much everyone was living on island time. I didn't see anyone rushing to do anything, and it was a breath of fresh air. One thing that I also found very interesting is that you have a very, very particular greeting to everyone. It's good morning, good afternoon, good evening. You say that every single time that you speak to someone on the Virgin Islands. It is considered very, very rude and disrespectful if you do not greet them in that way every time.
Hmm.
Yeah.
That's a interesting custom, but yeah, makes
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah, I thought so too. Because Brent was starting to use it like all the time. And I was like, Brent, what are you talking about? What do you mean?
Good
We
evening,
do not
Lauren.
talk
I
like
need
that.
to.
Yeah. But and then in some cases you just take the good off of it, like it becomes very casual. So it's like afternoon, like evening. So yeah, it was different. It was very different.
Yeah. Well, that's interesting.
There's
Good tip if you're going to Virgin Islands.
yeah,
Uh,
there are drinking is also very, 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 very common there. So you can walk into um a gas station and order like any kind of alcohol. You can open a can of beer while you're standing there. So it's very, very common to see people driving around or walking around or pretty much anything that anyone's doing. They've always got beer, wine, liquor, whatever it is, all the time,
Wow.
including driving.
Dang, do they not have any like DUI laws?
I remember asking Brent that because I thought it was so strange. I think that there are laws, but they're very, very loose. So as long as you're not crazy, as long as you're not trying to kill somebody, like you're fine. You're perfectly fine. Nobody's gonna stop you.
Wow, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you have any other stories while you were there that come to mind that you haven't shared yet?
I think one of my favorites was driving through the rainforest. It was, if you've never been to a rainforest before, it's just it's unlike anything you've ever experienced. But Brent, I remember we're driving, the roads were crazy. So driving there was like off-roading here. Um, but we're driving and Brent's like, "Hey, do you want to go give a beer to a pig?" And I was just like, "What? What do you a beer to a pig?" And I was like, "Sure, let's go." So, anyways, it's this very like common stop in the Virgin Islands in the rainforest, and you go there. There's a bar, of course, and you can sit in there and drink. And then they also have these giant hogs, and you take a can of beer, and you literally like they stand there. They know you're coming, and they will stand there right at their little fence. They jump up, open their mouths, and then you just drop the whole can of beer straight into their mouth. They drink the whole thing and then drop the can and wait for the next person. Like these pigs are drunk, very drunk all the time.
Drunk pigs.
Is that the
Drunk
horror movie, The
pigs.
Drunken Pig?
Yeah.
I'll have to ask Brent what the name of it was. That's funny. I just thought it was really weird. It almost felt like inhumane, but I did it.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean, the pigs
um,
seem to enjoy it, right?
oh yeah, the pigs definitely enjoyed it. And I mean, you can tell it wasn't like, you could tell that the people there that they really, they really took care of the animals that were there. I didn't Other than the fact that I was like literally giving beer to this pig, I didn't feel like there was any type of like safety concern for the animal. But um yeah, they, would kind of come in and out. They would bring different pigs or whatever. So everybody got a little bit of beer. No one was left out. So very caring there. But I don't know if I've ever sent you that video, Megan. I'll have to send you the video of me doing that. It's very
Oh,
interesting and very, like, very unexpected question from Brent.
Wow.
yeah. Just do driving along. Hey, you want to go give a pig some beer?
Yeah. I was, sure.
Yeah, that sounds
Not
like a
something
really
that I
good
really
time.
thought that we would enjoy that much, but I did.
Yeah, I'm surprised the pigs didn't just eat the can too, because pigs will eat anything. So I don't think
Yeah.
that feeding them beer in any way is like inhumane, because I'm pretty sure pigs can eat anything.
Right. Yeah.
They're pretty,
I I would imagine that it's something that like because it happens so frequently that they're probably taught not to do that, but I will definitely say that I thought that they were going to.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah, drunk pigs. That sounds like my hometown.
Yeah. Yeah, I was like, "Wait a second, did we get back to South Carolina and I did not know it?" But we were still there.
That is funny. That's a really funny story. Was it just you and Brent in the car?
No, it was so we all went. It was me, Brent, Nicole, Cash, and Connor. So, the boys got to do it too.
What did they think? I guess
Oh.
they were toddlers.
Oh, they loved it. They loved it. I got videos of them doing it too. They were definitely more like cautious, to like drop a
Mhm.
beer and I mean, because like the pigs were excited, like mouth wide open. So I think they were a little cautious, but they enjoyed it.
That's so fun.
Yeah, yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for sharing your experiences with us. We really appreciate you coming on and making the time.
And well, sorry about my distractions in the middle of it as well. But no, thank you so much for having me. And I really enjoyed it. It was great.
We'll talk again soon.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.
All right, everybody. Well, that was our conversation with Lauren Arnold. We hope that you enjoyed listening to their experiences. And bonus, if you found some interest in planning or researching a trip to Bermuda or the Virgin Islands from some of the experiences that you heard. With that, that's it for this week. Thank you guys so much for listening. Let us know if you enjoyed this episode. You can find us on Spotify and Apple and YouTube at Temporary Locals. We are also on Instagram at Temporary Locals Podcast. You can find Jared on Instagram at Rover_Stover and at Rover Stover on YouTube. And you can find me on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, and Facebook. And with that,
I'm Jared.
And I'm Megan. Thanks for exploring with us.
And remember to be a local anywhere you go.
Bye.
Bye.